This is the Best or Worst Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Koji Stephen Sakai and M. Martin Mapoma.
All right, welcome. This is the Best or Worst Podcast. I am Martin.
I'm Koji.
And we are here with a good friend of mine, Sandy Wilson, a high school friend of ours. Our society is so focused on celebrity, we sometimes forget that regular people lead interesting lives too. Best or worst moment of your life, hosts Koji Stephen Sakai.
That's me.
And M. Martin Mapoma, which is obviously me, are here to let your story out. We put people on the spot. What are you going to hear? It could be funny, it could be poignant, it could be sad. You'll know when we know. And this is episode 97. And once again, I'd like to welcome to the show. We have a very special guest today, someone that I grew up with in high school in Africa, moving back to America, stopped and visited with them visited with her in particular in Canada. Sandra Wilson. Hey, Sandy.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. Now, real quickly, does anyone else call you Sandy anymore, or is it just Sandra now?
Not very many people.
Oh.
But it proves, that was a great time in my life, being back in Lusaka, Zambia. So, it's nice to hear that again.
Yeah, good. No, we had, God, you were so awesome. It was so much fun hanging out with you.
What were you guys doing in Zambia?
My father was a diplomat for the Canadian High Commission.
Okay.
So we were there on a posting.
And what other countries did you guys go to?
We took a posting to Sri Lanka, which south of India, in the Indian Ocean.
Mm-hmm. Just those two places?
Pardon?
Just those two places?
Those are the two places that I went to when I was living, But after I moved out, my adopted family did go on to another posting in Tanzania, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Did they
Well, it was somewhere.
Okay. Now, was Sri Lanka before Zambia or after Zambia?
Oh, yeah. Sri Lanka, we went to Sri Lanka a year after we were adopted.
Oh, okay. And how old were you when you were adopted?
7.
Okay.
I think the file says 1975 or 1976. It's hard to remember.
No, I bet.
I don't want to admit it.
Yeah, but
we don't want to count the years.
No, we don't. But you were part. You sent me some really, really fascinating information about what was going on, and the Sixties Scoop. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that impacted you?
Well, the Sixties Scoop. Unbeknownst to my family, my adopted family, it turned out that our adoption was part of the cultural genocide that against the First Nations people to assimilation and strip them of their culture. So we were part of that, which would happened with at the end of the residential school area, which was also part of the beginning of the taking the Indian out of the child.
And when did you learn about that? At what age? Were you an adult already?
Funny enough, I had shared my adoption story with my current boyfriend like many years ago, and we were featured on a television show called Today's Child, and that show was done out of Toronto, and it was specifically for Indian children looking for forever homes, part of the going in our debut into society, regular society.
Wow, I'm listening.
Oh,
no.
It's really interesting to me because it seems really late to have that they were still doing that. In America, the indigenous folks, they were doing that in the early 20th century with moving kids to the Indian schools and stuff. And
actually, that's
go ahead.
Yes, you are exactly right. It's said that the residential schools were from 1880 to about 1996. I think the last one here in Canada actually closed, but it was a
96. Wow.
practice
Wow.
in
And-
all of America. Like some of
Wow.
our children, like some of the children ended up down in the States.
Wow.
Like there's an interactive map of where a lot of Indigenous children from Canada ended up. And
Yeah, I saw that what you sent me, and some of those stories are horrific. It's just, and there's an interesting when they talk about genocide, people don't just talk about genocide, and you actually sent it to me as well. That there are many forms of genocide. For example, and the one that we're talking about here in particular is that when you take Aboriginal children or Native children from a culture and assimilate them into, for example, with you, Anglo-Canadian culture, with the intent of destroying that culture, that's considered genocide, and that's what was happening. And I find it fascinating that it was happening up until 1996. So, I mean, how does your parents deal with this? I mean, when you confronted them or talked to them about this, I mean, what was the reception to that kind of? I mean, that must have been a hard topic.
oh,
Yeah.
they were shocked.
Were they shocked?
They were shocked.
Yeah. Now, were they shocked that you found out, or they shocked that you found out, or they shocked about the whole, that this horrible machine that was going on?
They were shocked that actually happened. Like my father, he's worked for the government, and he just didn't think stuff like that bad happened,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how does he feel about it now?
Well, they're a little bit more angry now, I think, because lots of information was withheld during our adoption that actually, had devastating outcomes in our lives.
Yeah. Were they angry at the withholding of information, or that you were privy to that information now? Because this is almost like a two-part question though, Sandy. Are you in contact with any of your what's the word I'm looking for? Your birth family? I don't know.
Oh,
why.
yes. Yes.
You are.
Yes. Yeah. I looked for my birth mother in 1985.
Okay.
And they had received every time she moved, she had left a forwarding address in case me, Emma, or Loretta decided, that we needed to bring that. So I was very lucky. They gave me her current address and phone number.
Is she alive still?
No, she passed away, but I did have the chance to,
get that
mother-daughter relationship.
Oh, that's great.
Back again.
Was she happy? Was she very happy that you got in contact with her?
Oh yes. Oh yes. I read in my file that she had actually, tried to find us a few times.
So were you guys taken against your will from her, or part of that 60s Scoop?
It was more like the Children's Aid allowed it to happen. Like she was in a position that she was in a hospital, and they just didn't notify her of that they were planning to go ahead and put us into adoption. She knew we were going to be placed in a family, but she had no idea that it was going to be finalized and we would end up thousands of miles away from her, or
wow,
how serious it was actually.
Was Loretta able to meet her as well?
Yes.
Okay.
We all got together in about 1990, like the early 90s, and had a picnic, and it was oh yes.
How did this affect you in terms of the way you look at the world, or the way you look at yourself? Are there any ways that it's affected you?
Yes. I question, finding this out is a shock, and I don't know what to believe now that, because Well, my investigation really uncovered a lot of family trauma that, my family's actually gone through. And I've actually, I'm struggling with, what happened because of, the effects of colonization. And it's really opened up my eyes.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That's it's colonization is never a good thing. It's never with the intent of helping the indigenous people. It never is, no matter what the people say.
Because similar things have happened in Australia, right, with the Aboriginals there,
Sure.
and then also Native Americans here, indigenous
And
folks, and all over the place.
Yes.
In Africa too,
Yes.
all the mixed race kids were taken and put into certain into schools and into trades to learn a trade, and they were just separated. And it's so how are you what are you dealing with now, Sandy? What are some of the things that you're going through right now? What are you trying to achieve? And I guess, and then again, the part of that question is, how much pushback are you getting from people about all this? Because I can only imagine that people want to bury this under the carpet and not deal with it. That's the normal cowardly way, if I can say that, of people dealing with it. No one wants to deal with it, head on. But so go ahead.
Well, my sister recently passed away, and it's become more of I need to tell people now, because like the effects of it, she didn't have to die. And there's thousands of other Indigenous people across Canada and even in the world that have been affected by this. And just
Sure.
Now that we know about intergenerational trauma, it's important that the message comes out.
Yeah.
Important people know.
Yeah.
No,
it is. So Loretta, I was in school with Loretta as well. She was great.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she was. She was a little heartbreaker, man, in our school, Koji. Whew, I tell you, she was so quiet. She was so easygoing, and and Emma was the oldest one.
Emma's the oldest one. Yeah.
Was she in Africa with you guys?
No, she didn't come to Africa. She stayed in Canada. She was at I think the last year of high school. So,
okay.
We all know how important that is. And we were unsure whether the difference between the education and like a international school really differed from the education that was in Canada.
Yeah. And luckily it's pretty it's pretty similar in a lot of ways. With the whole program. So
thankfully their metric.
Has the Canadian government made amends about this, or have they spoken out against this, or what's the status?
Yes, actually, there has been a lawsuit, and we're in final stages. And I had some numbers, Martin, about it, I think there is a lawsuit. Claimants, 15,000 of us claimants have been compensated with a partial payment from the government that has acknowledged pain and suffering and cultural genocide.
And they apologized.
Yes.
The apology part. Okay, great. Because one of the things I think about when I think about Canada is a lot of people don't know that Japanese Canadians were incarcerated during World War II.
They were as well.
Yeah, and actually, their situation was actually worse than the Japanese Americans were, because they were forced to a worse place. Like, it was harder place to live, and they had to live a lot longer. They had to stay there a lot longer than the Japanese Americans ended up having to do. So yeah, it's always something that I want to make sure people know about. That everyone talks about the Japanese Americans here in America.
How many died with the creation of the railroad? Like that were brought in, Chinese and Japanese.
So there's a lot of trauma there.
It is. It's very sad. Canada has many dark secrets.
Yeah.
It's funny because when I was visiting you guys, in Canada back in '84, everyone was, the first thing everyone asked me when I told them I was coming to the States after leaving Canada, they're like, we're much nicer, aren't we? And I was like, I guess, I mean, now I would say for the most part, Probably yes, but then I hear stories like this, and it's just yeah, every country has every country has their secrets. I mean, so
Yeah.
how much help are you getting from the government with all this? And as far as the society, how is society dealing with this in Canada?
Well,
Because you've got sisters and no brothers, right?
well, there's 5 in my okay. I have 2 families, so it's kind of,
Obviously.
I have the adopted family,
Mhm.
and there's 8 of us. There was 7 girls and 1 boy. Now me, Emma, and Loretta, we were adopted from all together. So,
Mhm.
and our family there's 5 of us. My birth
Mhm.
mother had 5 of us, but
Okay.
the effects of the residential school were too hard for her, and we all went into care.
Yeah.
Interesting. When I hear your story, I think a lot about the African Americans here and being taken as slaves, and losing their culture, losing their language, losing their religion, and the trauma within the family with people be taken away from them, and then and that kind of that intergenerational trauma, that 500 years of slavery would cause.
Yeah.
And it always just surprises me when people think, well, they haven't been, that the slavery ended in 1865 or whatever. And I'm like, dude, it's going to take at least, it's going to take 1,000 years to
Yeah.
fix this, and it starts with, this is my high horse. It starts with an apology, and we need a real apology. And then we also need a real reckoning financially. I don't know how that works, but there needs to be those 2 things have to happen in order for this country to heal. I mean, America to heal. And it just always surprises me when I hear these stories. And I think, even though it's just a piece of paper that says sorry, I do think that there is some meaning in that, because sorry, for example, my family was incarcerated during World War II, my dad. And I remember that the letter from President Reagan meant a lot to him, even if he didn't remember it. But I think that trauma was still there, but it does mean a lot. And I think that, one of the challenges with African Americans, we never got a true apology. They never got a true reckoning.
No,
There's
they
never been a
didn't.
true reckoning,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
that community.
That apology won't come. I mean, just the reality of the situation. Especially with what's happened in the last last 3 or 4 years.
No.
There's a tremendous amount of pushback. I mean, this idea, slavery lasted from 1619 to 18 whatever.
Yeah.
But then right after that, we had segregation and Jim Crow.
Yeah.
And that ended in 1954,
And
which
also,
is what, 50 years ago. Go ahead.
And there's still been no apology to Native Americans or Indigenous folks in America.
Who really got screwed.
The Indigenous people in Hawaii, there's never been a real apology, or the Indigenous folks in Alaska never got apologized. So I mean, there's a lot of communities that are still looking for that apology. I think that is definitely needed.
Right.
And it does. I mean, that's why people always ask me, like, they say, does that Ronald Reagan sign thing? It does. I mean, for the Japanese Americans, it healed the community in ways that, I mean, you could never get over it, but we're able to talk about it. We're able to, like now it's like we're able to coalesce around this thing and be able to make sure it doesn't happen again. And it does mean something. And when it's not solved or not resolved in that way, it's like this cancer inside a person that never truly heals, because it's never been addressed.
That's so true. It's so true.
Yeah, it is.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Well, thank you so much, Sandra, for coming on to this episode. It's been, I mean, I actually never heard of any of this. So it's really meaningful. And I'm going to do a lot of research after this, because I think it's important to know more about what happened and will continue to happen for so long, all the way to the 1990s. And thank you everyone for listening. And please rate, review, and subscribe. And we will see you guys in the next episode, 2 episodes from now. All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.